If someone hadn't shared their resources with you, where would you be? Actually, where would any of us be? How would anyone grow if someone else wasn't willing to share their resources? So we'll talk about sharing our own resources, why it matters, and more on this edition of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Good morning, Tom. How are you?
I am well, Bob. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. No complaints. Although morning came early today. Last night it rained a lot here in the Baltimore, Washington area.
Doesn't morning come at the same time every day? I mean, the sun rises a little bit.
It felt early this morning.
Fair enough. Late
I'm a
night
morning
for you?
person, and it came early.
It must have been you were up late.
I was up late. I'm not as young as I used to be.
Fair enough. Who is? Every day we're older than we were the day before. So everybody is not as young as they used to be.
That's it. And there was some weird snow yesterday. Like parts of Virginia, just got like 7 or 8 inches of snow out of nowhere.
The Northeast is getting, some parts of like New York and Vermont are getting hammered with snow. About 8 or 9 inches from what I heard. It's just crazy to think
so
about.
Crazy in mid-April. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. We always talk about, and my wife always shares when everybody talks about that, is that when we were living in upstate New York, central New York, actually, and it snowed on Mother's Day. It was a fun Mother's Day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a little late. I think that was one of those days when people are like, what are we doing here? So anyhow, for those who like the snow, it was funny that I was listening to the Weather Channel, watching the Weather Channel, and somebody in Boston was talking about the weather, the guy, and he was saying how he'd rather have snow because you can just brush it off than rain. Right. Can't really do anything with rain. And I guess I understand that, except with snow comes colder weather. So I don't know. I have to really think about which I would prefer. So anyhow, we don't
more time on that than I thought you would.
Well, weather is an interesting thing. So, and it's the universe sharing its resources with us, right? Whether it's rain or snow or sunshine, all those things that our world needs for it to grow. And we're going to talk about that more on this edition of today's Antidote, where this week our conversation is all around sharing our resources. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about what it means. Today, we're going to dive into why it matters. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But before we do that, we are going to share our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating the fact that I have really good tires on my car because I drove through a lot of rain last night and I was concerned. There was some hydroplaning going on because there was a lot of standing water. And I got home and I thought, wow, my car is really safe. I'm blessed in many ways.
Interesting. I like that.
How about you?
So I'm going to share. It's interesting. Last night I had the opportunity to facilitate this meeting of a board of a kind of really cool institution or organization, nonprofit organization. And they have a struggle that they're dealing with. It's a significant struggle. One of their big time funders is sort of backing away and looking in different directions. And so they're trying to figure out how to move forward. And I think last night there was a good effort in sharing their resources. So the board members shared their thoughts, ideas, their experience, their knowledge, their perspective. and I think it helped provide some clarity. I wouldn't be able to do what I think I'm going to be able to do to help them if others weren't sharing, right? I would just be trying to figure out what made sense for me, and I'm not sure that would work for them. And I think ultimately they are going to thrive or not based on whether others decide to share the resources they have. And I think what's fascinating, we talked a little bit about this last week, is that others aren't going to share unless we let them know what's going on and we let
Mhm.
them know how they could share. And I think one of the keys for this organization is sharing what they have to offer. I think they have done it. They have just done it in a way that it maybe hasn't leveraged the true resources that the organization has. So hopefully we will help them share their resources with others so that in return people may get interested and engaged and connected to their mission and then share back with them that will allow them to continue to move forward on their own unique pathway to success. So it was just an interesting conversation, and I was celebrating the chance to be a part of it.
Well, and you talk about that with nonprofits. It's just the same thing with the for-profit business
Sure.
as well. It's the need to share so that people can understand and appreciate and see where they fit in is critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what are we sharing with our
Let's go to the
renegades
book,
today?
shall we? The Renegade Way by Bob Graham, forward by Tom Brush. I know those guys. They're nice guys. So here we go. I shudder to think of how many times I and others have spoken at networking events in a way that has more mystified than inspired other attendees. If we cannot be clear to ourselves about who we seek to serve, then how can we expect others to help us find them? And
Can
I
you read
think
that
that
one more
relates
time?
to our topic.
Yeah, can you read it one more time? The last part.
Absolutely. I shudder to think of how many times I and others have spoken at networking events in a way that is more mystified than inspired other attendees. If we cannot be clear to ourselves about who we are seeking to serve, then how can we expect others to help us find them?
I like the last part a lot. And I think we talked a little bit about that last week, which is great. It's the opportunity for us to sharing our resources, letting people know what's going on with us so that they can benefit and also they might be able to share more in return. I love it. All right. So let's dive into our topic today about sharing our resources. We can carry over from that. And as we share this, if you happen to be watching the show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live! I'm alone.
wow, that was
Echoing.
unexpected.
Been
Maybe
waiting for
because we
that.
haven't done it in a
Today
while.
I was waiting for that. Forget it.
All right. So we look forward to your comments. Please share them within whatever social media you happen to be watching this on, because we know that it will add value to the show. And it might be exactly what someone else is looking for. And then at the end, Bob and I are each going to share our one thing, our today's antidote. And so if you have something that you would like to share as well, please feel free to put it in the comments. Because we know that while what we believe we are sharing our resources, there are others out there who are looking for a different resource. And you might have just the resource that they are looking for. So please feel free to share your comments as we go along with this discussion. So Bob, talk us to us a little bit about sharing our resources and why it matters.
It matters because I guess I'll start with a story. When I started my first business, I anticipated that people would just come flocking to me. I was really smart. I had a cool website, and it didn't happen. It took me a while to figure out how to share what I was trying to do with people in ways that they actually could see the value to them. I remember first going, yeah, I do small business marketing. And people are like, yeah, whatever. And then I started to say, hey, how's your website? Oh, I don't have a website. Oh, do you want one? Yeah, but it's too expensive, or it's too this, or it's too that. I slowly found the magic. It took about 18, 20 months. And over those 18 or 20 months, I probably went to 100, 150 networking events. And my message fell flat because I was talking to me. I was justifying it to myself. And I think when we share our resources, it's about sharing them in ways that people can approach them. Like I was talking to someone last night and she was asking about what I do. And I said, I'm a business coach. And she's like, oh, what does that mean? It was a great question because business coaching can be all over the place. And she wanted to know what facet of that. Oh, I work with small businesses, entrepreneurs, startups. And this is how I often help them. And she's like, oh, wow, you're really clear about what you do. And Yeah, because
eventually.
I've worked at it, and she could understand it because she's like, I think a friend of mine has a business coach, and it sounds like what you do. I was like, oh, okay. So there, notice how there's a connection there versus I say what I say and they go, uh-huh, all right. So next. And we get that. We all get that from time to time, right?
Sure. Well, let me throw this thought at you that came
Please.
to me while I was doing this, is that so often we share at a networking event or with other things what we do.
Right.
What we do isn't really a resource.
Right.
It's just a thing. It's an action. Our resources is the value that we have that we share. And I think people get confused in that. You know, when you go to, being an insurance salesperson is not a resource.
Right.
Helping people ensure that their homes are safe, their cars are safe, their families are safe should they die, that is a resource that we
Yes.
can then share with others. And I think that's where we get caught and we get tripped up. And I think why it matters about sharing our resources is it's not sharing what we do. It's
Right.
sharing the impact that we have or the knowledge, experience, and perspective that we have to benefit someone else. And I think that so often that gets lost. Because it was interesting as you were telling that story, she had to ask 3 questions to get to what your true resource impact was. Because she asked what you do, and you said I'm a business coach, which means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
Then she asked, like kind of who do you help? And then you're like, oh, I help small business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs. And then she said, oh, okay. And then finally you got to actually the resources that you share.
Yes.
Which is really the value that you offer that allows them to be impacted and help them move forward. And so I think that's, one of the things of why it matters is it becomes less clear to others if we just tell them what we do or dance around all those things that matter to us. I have all these tools that I use. I have this system. I've got this program. Systems, programs, and resources and evaluations are not really resources. They're tools to help others really get to it. And I think the key is we get caught in the tools rather than in the value that we provide. And so people get confused and they aren't really certain of, one, how might I benefit? What's the benefit to me? What's the impact on me from being involved with this person, whether in a client customer owner customer relationship or on a team. And they're uncertain about like, what do I take from it? So I just think it's fascinating as we consider how we share our resources, that we really talk about resources and not talk about tools.
I'm duly schooled this Tuesday morning. Well done, Mr. Brush.
That wasn't my intent. I was just
no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But I think part of that also is, as I was playing it back in my head, when we start to share our value, we become vulnerable because we're making an assessment. And that's probably what attracts people to us. But it's also what puts us out on the limb. If I had said to her, I help people who are struggling to figure out their pathway forward to find that next step. Sounds kind of grandiose. Maybe. But that does, when I say that to people, they usually go, really? Like, what's their path? Varies, could be anything. What's the next step? Varies, could be anything. How do you know what, and the best question is, how do you know what their next step is? I said, I never do. And that usually leads to a better discussion just of what I'm trying to accomplish. But last night, talking to this person, it wasn't a business setting for me. I wasn't looking for a customer, if that makes sense. I think that's part of this. We talk about sharing our resources. The reality is She could have known someone. She could have been someone. I made an assessment based on the situation I was in. And that's probably not my best answer to the situation, because who knows? She might have said, it's crazy. I've been looking for a business coach for the last 3 months. It's so weird that I met you tonight.
Or the company that I work for has been looking for some guidance and some support.
Right.
Because they're struggling with how to manage people now that they work from home, or people who don't want to go back to an office setting, or where do I find employees? Because in my small business, nobody seems to want to work for the daily hourly wage or the hourly wage anymore.
Right.
And I think that we believe, and maybe you did this or we do this subconsciously. As you said, you make an assumption. You feel like I'm not in a business situation, so why would I share the business value that I have? And I wonder if we considered that we have an opportunity with every interaction, and this is why it's important, to share the value that we have, share the resources that we have. And, as we talked about yesterday, those resources, some of the key ones are knowledge, experience, and perspective. Mm-hmm. And when we share that allows others to grow, and also in their growing, become more aware of maybe how they might be able to help us or who are others that they know who might need that solution. Because why else would they? I mean, I know the question is sort of a throwaway question. What do you do? Although they are asking. So now you have an opportunity to share your resources with them.
Right.
It wasn't like you just walked up with them and started saying, hey, you know what? This is what I do. And this
was on an elevator.
It's that elevator speech.
I said good evening to the person, and she said good evening to you. And then I made a comment about her shoes or something, and she said, are you in fashion? I said, no. And she said, what do you do? So it wasn't a work setting in any way. And I think that's one of the differentiations I probably make at my own peril at times is it's a work situation and I should be in work mode, and it's a not work situation and maybe I shouldn't be. And maybe the two are similar, because who knows? She might have known someone, she might have, I don't know. And I never got to ask her what she did, because she got to her floor and she left.
I think that's the thing is we make assumption about situations and based on those situations, what we should share, rather than she invited you, whether it was off the cuff, whether it was like she didn't know what to say and she might as well, here's a simple throwaway question. She still invited you to share. And what we then choose to share, I think, says a lot about what we think how the person may or may not be able to help us. Now, I know you wouldn't do this, but it could be easy to say, as you said, I wasn't in a business situation, so how could this person ever help?
Right.
Help me in a business. And I think rather than thinking about any of them as a business or a personal situation, if we started to think them about when someone asks us something like that, we have a chance to share our resources, not knowing what it could bring, which means it could be just a throwaway comment that they made and it doesn't really matter. Or it could really be, what they're interested in. Maybe because you made a comment that was actually about them and recognizing something about them that they were like, oh, interesting. Well, I'd like to learn more about you. Mm-hmm. And had you answered differently the first time, you might have then got a chance to say, well, what is it that you do? Who do you help? I think it's an interesting.
Didn't see this going there.
I try to, keep you on your toes over there.
You do. This is good. I like it. I like when I'm improving and that my experience can be a lesson. So, Tom, I think my one thing is that there's no such thing as a business situation or a non-business situation. That when we're sharing our resources, it might matter no matter what the situation. Because if we're sharing how we help people, haven't you ever had that experience where you're like, I didn't know you did that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that goes, we talked a little bit about yesterday is that we have the same challenge with others sharing theirs. Mm-hmm. if we never, excuse me, if we never ask, they might never share. And then we get in situations where people ask us and we don't choose to share.
Yep.
We choose to make it a little more difficult for them to really understand the resources that we have, how we help, how we can impact them and maybe others that they know. We miss out potentially on opportunities.
So what's your one thing?
My one thing about sharing resources and why it matters is that I think we always have a chance to have an impact on someone. If we choose to share value rather than, and in this case, what we do. I think so often that's when I think about teams and I think about leaders on teams. And usually, if you're the leader of a team, there are people who are looking to you for resources. Supposedly, you know things that they don't know. You've had experience they don't know. You have a perspective that they don't have. And do we really share the value that we have when people ask for it in a way to really help them help themselves, or in a way to do it most expediently that ultimately helps us or our organization? And I think that when we do it from a way of my goal in sharing my resources to help you, that it will change not only people that we are surrounded by or that we are sharing with, it'll also change how they look at us and how they see us maybe as a further resource. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who is very, very helpful, adds value all the time on a team, the leader is going to keep coming back to you and looking, because they know that you're someone who's willing to share the resources that you have, and vice versa. If you're a leader who every time someone comes in, you not just throw them your advice, you ask them questions to help understand what is it that they truly need, not what you assume that they need, that they have a chance to truly grow. And they're going to come back to you more often because they know it's not just about, well, this is going to help the team, this is going to help, but it's actually going to help them because you're sharing your resources with them, not worried that they are going to at some point have the knowledge, experience, and perspective to either take your role or a role that you thought you were interested in because they have something that you don't. And I think that's a thing that happens in organizations far too often, that I've seen far too often, is leaders hold back because they are worried that someone else might have what's real for them becomes larger and that they might end up taking whatever role it is that the current leader has. And that out of that fear, they don't share their resources. And so people can't improve. And then the organization really doesn't improve. I don't know if it was a lot
of ground today.
Yes, that was kind of an all over the place one thing. So I think that's 2 days in a row that I've maybe offered more than one thing. Sorry. You got to get back on track here.
Tomorrow, I'm going to ask you for one thing.
Just one thing. All right. I'm going to have to be clear and concise and just one thing tomorrow. That's my promise.
Okay. All right.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for being with us today. If you have thoughts you'd like to share around this topic about sharing our resources and why it's important, why it matters, please feel free to put them in the comments. And of course, if you have that one thing that you think might add real value to someone else, please feel free to share that as well. Don't hold it back, assuming that they don't need the value that you have to offer. Step up and share those. You share your resources with others. You never know what might come from it. And also, we'll be talking about this topic all week inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, whether it's through polls or quotes, comments. So please feel free to come in and join us and continue the conversation inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, something that we are going to be modifying a little bit and provide another opportunity to extend that conversation on our app. We'll have more information about that in the coming days as we look to continue to share our resources with you so that you can find your next step along your own unique pathway to success. So with that, we look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for our next edition of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegade in you and share your resources with someone you might expect to share them with, or someone you might not. Great things could happen.
Don't make assumptions. They're
That's
just
it.
going to get you in trouble. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.